Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World for a late night live. I am joined by Mr. Matthew Angel. How are you, mate?
Very well, my friend. Very well. Looking forward to the weekend. One step closer. One more day in work, mate, and yes, up to the potteries we go on Saturday, my friend.
Yeah, you looking forward to that, mate?
Yeah, it's another ground I haven't been to, so it's another one Josh wants to tick off his list. So another day creating memories, but
that's the way, mate, isn't it? Just tick off all the different grounds and that, and see which ones. See how many you can do with him before he wants to start going with his mates, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. That's the plan. But I'll still be going with him, I expect. But
see on the beers with him.
I don't drink anymore, do I?
Same as me, you know. All my kids are most of my kids are old enough to drink, and I don't really. I don't drink myself, but there we go. Such is life, mate.
It is.
So I wanted to ask you first, really, what did you think of Cardiff City's transfer window?
Positive, I think. Positive in the sense that obviously we brought a couple of players in. I don't know too much about this William Alves. Obviously, we've seen Salech come off the bench a few times, and he's been, what we have seen of him, I like so far. He's, a young, hungry lad who's got a bit about him. He's not afraid to put it about and put that extra the graft. I think he's I think he'd be a fan favourite because even if he doesn't have all the ability in the world, he's a tryer, isn't he? And I think Cardiff fans really take to them. Don't get me wrong, I hope he proves us wrong. And he does score bags and bags of goals for us because that's what we need. But I've been really impressed with his, 20 minutes or so cameos coming off the bench, really. It's a positive one. That Mannsverk, I don't really know too much about him. You probably know a little bit more about him because I know you were into all your research and stuff. But again, for him to be involved in the Ajax setup, he's got to have something about him. So again, another positive one. I think what shocked me more than anything through the transfer window is the fact that we haven't seen certain people go that I probably thought would have. But we can come on to that a bit later if you want.
Yeah, I think like Salech to me, he obviously looks like someone who's going to work very hard and the rest of it, he's going to give 100%. And straight away, he's given more energy than what we've probably got from other options outside of Callum Robinson. Like he gives me the impression he's a bit of a goal poacher. And one of the things which I really liked was in the Millwall game, he missed that big chance right at the end in normal time, and that could have, for a young guy, that could have played on his mind. But like literally minutes later, he finishes a harder chance to win to get the equaliser. And I think you need that as a striker and as a forward, particularly as a young forward. You need to have that sort of goldfish brain where you just forget it. Like if it doesn't happen, you just got to move on and go to the next one. And Kean Ashford's got it. The same game in the Millwall game, he kept beating the fullback, and then his final ball was poor, but he just kept wanting the ball and he kept beating the fullback. And but then the next game, I noticed that his crossing and his final ball was much improved.
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty sure he scored the following game as well. Ashford, I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I think so. But I think it's also like that. The kind of like young players, they're going to be inconsistent first and foremost, but also they're learning all the time, aren't they? And I think with Kean, his work rate's never been questioned, obviously, and he had that Millwall fullback on toast, and I really liked that because it's difficult coming off the bench. It's all a bit hectic, and especially if you're chasing a game, it's all a bit frenetic. Whereas, he starts the next game and he did well. With Will Alves, I know Maresca really liked him when he was at Leicester, and really rated him. He was the one who sort of brought him into the first team. It's his first loan, so I think you never quite know what you're going to get. But he's coming back from a long-term injury as well. But I think Jamie mentioned yesterday on the radio show, like they put a video out, or either Leicester or his team put a video out, sort of detailing his recovery from the injury and just the mental strength to come back from an injury like that, and also, put it out there for the world to see and things. I think that shows a degree of mental strength that you probably need as well. So hopefully he can hit the ground running, because by all accounts, everyone who I've sort of spoken to about him, whether it's media or fans and people, they all seem to think he's got bags and bags of ability.
Like I seen a post on a Leicester City forum, I think it was, and a lot of their fans couldn't believe they've let him go, type of thing. Even though he's on loan, they seem to think he should be, he's more than capable of pushing for a first team spot. So, I look at that as a positive again, and I think you were pretty much the same. You judge with your eyes, and time will tell, I suppose. Like you say, he's a youngster. I think another positive for me is that he's worked with Riza before in the England setup. So that's a positive. At least, Riza knows a bit about him and what his strengths and things are going to be. No doubt, obviously, he's probably matured and developed a little bit since Riza has worked with him. But like you said, going through some of the stuff he's gone through with the long-term injury is only going to improve his mindset, really, I think. And, yeah, looking forward to seeing him play. And, yeah, hopefully you'll get some minutes on the pitch on Saturday.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see all three of them start, to be honest. Even if, like maybe Mannsverk might only have like an hour in him or a half. I think you could easily give him half and Ramsey half or something like that, or give him an hour and Ramsey 20 minutes. And I've saw a lot of people saying, they should bring Ramsey straight back in and stuff. Like, to me, I think that at his best, he's by far our best player, but also you don't need to rush him. Like, one of the things which really frustrated me at the start of this season is I forget which game it was, but like he started, and about an hour or 70 minutes in, he looked absolutely out on his feet, and he ended up playing 97 minutes that day. And Bullet took off a couple of other players who looked young, who were younger, fresher, looked like they were having a decent game as well. And it was very frustrating because I didn't feel like they were managing his minutes, which I think he needs.
No. Was that the game when he picked up a little niggle right towards the end, I think?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I'm sure it was.
But I don't get me wrong. Like, I think I'd have him on the bench, and I'd probably give him 20 minutes either way. Like, because if you need a goal, he's a good player to bring on, creative and stuff like that. And if you need to sort of shore things up and keep hold of the ball and want to see a game out, he's got the experience to do that as well. So, either way, I'd have him on the bench. But I would like to see us go quite young to start. I think I'll probably change it again by tomorrow when I do the preview. But I think I would go like Halverth in goal. I'd probably go Giles on the left. I'd go Bagan and Fish as centre backs. And then
I've been impressed with Bagan, if I'm completely honest. A couple of times he's come on and filtered into that centre back position. I think for me, he looks a little bit more aggressive this year as well. He's not afraid. He's not afraid to fly into challenges, which, don't get me wrong, they've got to be timed right and stuff. But I liked him, and I think, again, similar to you, and I think you said before that you found it. I think he's been not harshly treated, but he's unlucky that he hasn't had more of a consistent run in the team. And I think
he's been unlucky that O'Dowd has been so good, I think. But I think what we have seen at points this season is O'Dowd defensively is suspect, and not through lack of trying, just through the fact that he's a winger. And I think that was one of my disappointments. One of the few disappointments from the Leeds game was when I thought it was obvious they were going to try and get him behind, so why were we playing such a high line? But then equally, I thought we should have gone with, like Bagan at left back and been a bit more defensively minded. But, it's gone. You've got to forget about it now.
I'll tell you what I wouldn't be against on Saturday is playing Raheem Conte at right back.
Well, that's what I was going to just say then is, would you go NG or Conte? Because I think the defense I just said is very young. So the reason I went with Bagan is because I think Bagan deserves a start. So that's why. But I also would like to see Louis Giles get a bit of time. So I said go Giles left back and put Bagan at left centre back alongside Fish. It's obviously 3 very young players. So do you then go with Perry NG on the right, or do you go the whole hog and put Conte's played for Woking, didn't he, in the earlier round? So yeah, so I'd probably go Perry or NG on the right back, or Reno Motor, either one, mate. Really, like
I give Reno. I wouldn't start Reno, and only for the fact that let him rest up. He's played a lot of minutes. He's been I think he's, for me, and this is my personal opinion only, I think he's taken over O'Dowda slightly for Player of the Year, just because he's been our Mr. Consistent, and he doesn't look out of place there at all.
No, I think he's the first choice right back, and I also think like he deserves a break. We'll come to that question from Howell in a minute, because you'll have to talk me through that a little bit, the rugby side of it. But in the midfield, I would like to see Mannsverk and Robertson, and then Ruben in the 10. I would really like to see that trio with, I think Tanner's obviously out, so I would go with like Alves and Ashford on the wings and Salech up front and go with a really young side. But it's young, but there's, some real quality there. And I think, Perry NG could be in there to be the sort of experienced head. I don't think that will be the side, by the way, but that's what I would like to see. But I think it'll more likely be Bagan at left back, and I think Gutas or Darland will play with Fish. Probably Darland, because I thought him and Fish did quite well together in the last round. Perry on right back, and then I think I wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Robertson get a break because he plays most games.
As a fan, though, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because obviously it's a winnable tie in all games, and it's cup football at the end of the day. But you almost want to go full tilt because you want to try and get that big game next round, don't you? But then I suppose you're thinking ahead as well. And with we got a massive week coming up then afterwards with Portsmouth, Bristol City, and then Plymouth.
And also, it's giving those opportunities to Fish, to Ruben, to Mannsverk, to Alves to state a claim for the league games. We got a league game on Tuesday, which is a bit of a long trek as well to Portsmouth. And then you've got Bristol on the Saturday. So hopefully now he's got more options. He won't do he won't make the same mistake he's made previously where he tries to play the same 11 3 times in the space of like 6-7 days, because we've paid for it twice now when he's done that. And I think most people will be happy to see those young players play on Saturday so they can have a look at them, but also so they can stake a claim. Ruben has been sort of not ostracized, but he's been pushed out a little bit where Robertson's been doing such a good job. So it's his opportunity, innit? And like, he was a bit unlucky because in the last round he could have had 2 or 3 assists if Atete could finish, but if he puts those same sort of chances up for Salech, you think he'll probably, at least take one of them. So it'll be certainly interesting, mate.
It will.
Just finishing off on the transfer window. And you mentioned like surprised some players didn't go. Yeah, I was very surprised that they haven't moved Jamal Collins on. I don't know whether they'll end up coming to some sort of agreement with him so he can go on a free now. And I wouldn't be surprised if the same with Mate, to be honest. And I wonder whether they left it to see if anyone offered like a little bit of cash before the window closed. And now that hasn't happened, maybe they'll move him on or release him. To me, my concern, not a massive concern, but a little concern, is that we got a big squad. And when you look at it, if everyone's fit, he's probably going to have to leave out 3 first, like senior professionals, not academy players. And I think, you might get away with that once or twice. So say Jamal Collins is one of them. He hasn't been involved for a while. After that, like, negativity can spread in a dressing room really, really quickly. And if you're leaving out 3 senior pros every week, that soon becomes a bit of an issue, which is why I wouldn't be surprised to see like a Mate or a Jamalu Collins get their contracts sort of paid up or released, because I don't think it's tenable to keep leaving out first team players. You might be all right for a couple of weeks because, you know, Ramsey's not fully fit and a few others are sort of carrying knocks and stuff. But if you get to a point where everybody's fit, there's too many players.
Yeah.
So
mention about Ramsey there. Sorry to just jump in because a couple of people have mentioned it in the comments. What's your opinion? Do you think he needs more minutes for the 21s before going into playing a cup game?
I would mix it up, see. So I would have him on the bench for Saturday and I would give him like 10, 15 minutes. But I wouldn't think about starting him until he's played another couple of halves for the 21s. There's no rush to rush him back. We've got plenty of options in the middle of the park, plenty of options in the 10. So there's no reason why we need to force it. But also he's got his own personal trainer and personal training team. They will they'll manage it and they'll know where he is and how far he is. It's going to take him a bit of time to get up to match. Match fitness is different. And the reason I would play him off the bench on Saturday is because match fitness is not only different, but match fitness from the 21s to the first team is different as well. Like the Championship and the FA Cup is a lot quicker and more physical than the 21s. So you could play 10 games for the 21s, but you still might not be up to speed for the first team. So I think you need to mix it. But obviously he's got his own team of fitness people, you know, same as what Bellamy had and some others have had in the past. It's just one of them things. People are going to have to be patient. It does make me laugh. People like writing him off, like he's finished. You know, don't get me wrong. He struggled for fitness. That's just part and parcel of. We knew that when we signed him, but on his day, he's excellent, and he was pretty good for us at the start of this season, and he was good for us last season before his injury as well. So, I think if you question,
I think a lot of it just comes down to frustration and all the hype of him coming home and things, and it's just we haven't seen him, and I'm not one of them ones who thought, him coming back. Don't get me wrong. I think he's had a brilliant career, absolutely fantastic, and he's Cardiff through and through. But we was never going to get him back to what he was like when he was playing for Arsenal. He's had some shocking injuries, and for him to still be able to, if he gets 15, 20 games a season for us, I think is a taker.
Yeah, someone just questioning about, or Martin was just saying about the European transfer window. As far as I'm aware, all the windows are closed now. That's why it was like on Monday, on the 3rd of February, so they all lined up. So as far as I'm aware, all the transfer windows are closed now, but obviously you can sign free transfers at any point. That's my thing with Ramsey is like you can question his fitness record since he's come back. Of course you can. But I think if you're questioning his quality, then you're being blinded by his fitness issues because his quality is not in doubt.
It's not just that either. It's his his presence around the changing room and the training field. You think about we talk about the youngsters coming through and things. To have somebody like that to look up to and take advice from is he's worth his weight in gold.
That's why I said, like, if he was any other player and he was out of contract in the summer, my personal view would be you wouldn't give him a contract. Whereas I would give him a pay-as-you-play contract and I would give him a coaching contract to kind of give him a decent basic, and then he gets a pay-as-you-play deal where he makes up the majority of his wages and stuff, which he's, look, people forget, like, he took a massive wage cut to come here, by the way. He still gets paid a lot, but he took a big pay cut to come here. And also, he's earned the right to be paid that much by the quality of his football career. And people forget that sometimes. I think people expect people to play for free. And it's like, this doesn't work like that, does it?
No.
But sort of moving on. Howell asked a question, but you'll have to sort of take me through it because I couldn't tell you anything about the rugby club system these days. But he says went to the FAW interaction last night at the ground. Daniel Gavadon mentioned options of having affiliation clubs when it comes to players like rugby. What's your thoughts? So is that like feeder clubs, yeah?
I'm not sure what he quite means there, but obviously, like the Welsh internationals, obviously started off at their grassroots club. Like, for example, in Alan Wynne-Jones, former Welsh rugby captain, his local side as he was growing up was Bonamine before he went to move on to play in the Welsh regions and things like that. So I think that's what Martin might be getting at, but I'm not 100% sure.
So affiliation clubs, I think, are more like feeder clubs, but I don't know. Like, so I know some Premier League clubs and some European clubs have got feeder clubs around Europe, haven't they? Like different places in South America and stuff where they can send players on loan and stuff. And I mean, effectively, without putting the Kortrijk fans down, I think Kortrijk is effectively that for us anyway, isn't it? Whereby if we want to send someone on loan, we'll send them there and stuff like that. And, you know, look at Simic and people. But I certainly think it would be, if that's what it is meant by the question, I think it'd be interesting to have like a Welsh League clubs which maybe had the same sort of benefits for us and equally for them to get some young talent in and stuff. I'm not 100%.
I think it's a question that I'm not sure what podcast we discussed it on, but obviously during pre-season I went to watch Cardiff against Penabont at Leckwith. And over the last couple of seasons, I think they've played them every pre-season, so they've got that little bit of a relationship there. But then, you know, you don't really hear of many, you know, Cardiff City Academy players dropping down and playing for, like, you know, Welsh Premier clubs, do you, and things like that.
No, there's a few, you know, where they get dropped and stuff like that. There's a lad plays for Penabont now. It was really highly thought of, and I think he's doing quite well for Penabont. I forgot his name. James Kroll, I think it is. And obviously he just got released by Cardiff and went there. Martin just asked in the chat, can you sign for two teams simultaneously under the UEFA rules? You can't, no, but I'm pretty sure the feeder system has changed slightly now, whereby a lot of these clubs, so like what's the club that Pep's brother owns? But I can't remember what club it is. Genoa, is it? No, I don't know. But there's a club which is owned by Pep's brother, which was gifted to him by Man City's owners, and effectively, you know, if they want to send young players on loan abroad, they'll send them there, and it's the same. You know, you've had I forget, there was a Belgian club back in the day, one there for Fergie, where you just send young players on loan, and it can do them a bit of good as well. Go into a different country. Obviously, we've sent Simic to Sunder, Isaac Davis, Ojo have all been to Kortrijk recently. I think it's a good thing to have, but you can't sign like a full-time contract with more than one place. You've got your registration is held by one club. You can't even at junior level. You can't be registered for two clubs. With regards to the kind of outs, do you think that might come back to bite us on the backside, having such a big sort of bloated squad?
Yeah, just going back to what you mentioned earlier about, you know, it doesn't take long for things to spread through the changing rooms. I suppose, you know, if you've got one rotten apple, it doesn't take long before you got a few there, type of thing. But I don't know.
Doesn't always. Sorry, mate, to interrupt you, but just gonna say that doesn't always have to be like a player going, "Oh, this is fucking shit," blah blah blah. This is great, and like being really vocally like slagging off the manager or the way the team's playing or whatever. It can just be a guy who's not happy, and it's just like, "Oh, not in the squad again," and it just because it just drags everyone down, and then he'll have a mate who might be in the team or on the bench, and then they start talking, and that can just can spiral pretty quickly. Like, it doesn't have to be like a troublemaker, if you like, that causes it to be an
and
issue.
I'm not saying this is the thing, but that sounds very similar to like when Wintle had his bit of a falling out. I know he's best mates with Perry NG, and he kind of dipped in form as well, didn't he? When all that was up in the air about him falling out with Bullet, and he fell out with somebody in the crowd, didn't he, Wintle? I don't know. That's not true. That's just me putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 6, mind.
Yeah, I mean, with Wintle, there was a few different things towards the end of the season, wasn't there? After we got absolutely rodded by Rotherham, he was like laughing and joking after the game. He'd had, like I said, he had an argument with a fan. So there was a few different things, but I'm sure it didn't help, that he'd fallen out with the manager, and obviously Perry NG, there was rumours that he was going to go. And yeah, it's one of those kind of things, isn't it, which can spiral. So just looking at our squad, we've got 4 keepers in Ethan Halworth, Jack Alnwick, Matthew Turner and Dennis. Then you've got Jasper Darlin, Callum Chambers, Gutas, Fish, Jamaru Collins, Bagan, NG, Mannsverk, David Turnbull, Rawls, Alex Robertson, Ramsey, Rena Mota, Callum O'Dowda, Ruben Colwell, Kean Ashford, Alves, Chris Willock, Mate, El Ghazi, Tanner, Simic, Salech, Callum Robinson and Isaac Davis. That is incredible. And that's not even including some of the young lads who are like training with the first team on the brink, like your Contes, your Giles, people like that. So how many is that? Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 7.
Lots.
Trying to count it. 20, 21, 22, 23.
Got my fingers, are
26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Wow. That's much more. That's even more than I thought it was. So that's 30. You'd say all of those, apart from the 2 of the goalkeepers. So say there's 28 bona fide first team players. You can only pick 25 on a match day. Is it 25? It's 25, isn't it? You pick on a match day.
It's not that many, is it? Surely it's not that many. You've got 11 starting.
Like 10 subs, didn't I? 21.
I'm not sure.
I'll check that now. But even so, do you know what I mean? You're looking at leaving five players out, at least. And that's not including, like, if Conte comes back in and performs at the level that he was performing at, he won't be far off. If Louis Giles was to get a start in the FA Cup and he's absolutely, like, world class, like, he's got to play, suddenly, do you know what I mean? Like, it's going to be tricky to manage all that. And one of the things which worries me is, like, Isaac Davis is not far off being fit. He's out of contract in the summer, and I would really like to see him get the opportunity to earn a new contract by playing in this sort of Riza system, because I think it suits him much more than any system that we've had since he's been in the first team. But 11 players, 7 subs on a match day. A lot of players to leave out, isn't it? I mean, I think in terms of registering, because you can only register 25 players, but I think like Isaac Davis, Kean Ashford, Ruben Colwell, people like that, under 23, I think because they've come through the system, they don't have to be registered. I'm not sure about like Will Fish and Alex.
Sure. Like that's right,
But I'm not sure with like Joel Bagan, obviously he's 23, so he'd probably fall in that. But I'm not sure if like, Mannsverk and Alex Robertson and people like that, I don't know if they fall under the same rule because they're under a certain age. I'll have to look that up and have a chat to some people.
It's got to be something to do with like coming up through the academy or something like that, perhaps. And if they've been here for like X amount of years, I think. I didn't realise quite how big. Like I knew the squad was bloated, but geez, that's massive. I've just sorted them by age. I don't know.
don't know if Ollie Tanner would count as coming through the academy. I mean, technically he came through the 21s, so you might get away with that. Isaac Davis, Joel Bagan, Ruben, Matthew Turner, Kean Ashford. That's it in terms of if it's academy players. So it's going to be interesting, mate. I mean, even if you take away, even if they do end up releasing, like Mate and Jamalu Collins, there's only two. Still a very bloated squad. Some are injured and some like that.
But then I suppose you look at it, and there was, how many did they say were out of contract in the summer? Was it 12 or 13 players out of contract in the summer?
Yeah, well, it was 13 with Kanga, wasn't it?
All those players are all fighting for contracts. And there was a comment, I think Jonathan put in there about ripping up the team. When do we rip up the team sheet with a view to next season? And I don't think we can, because obviously Riza's fighting for the contract. Those players who are out the contract are fighting for the contract, and you'd like to think that every game's important now, and there's still a lot of points to play for. And I'm not saying anything about playoffs and things. That's way, way, way out of our remit at the moment. But who's to say we can't climb that table? There's, like I said, there's still lots and lots of points to play for.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I think it's going to be super, super, super interesting how he manages it. I do think once we're mathematically safe, that's when you can start building for next year. So for me, say hypothetically with 5 games to go, we're completely safe. I would definitely be playing. I'd be looking to almost play a side under 25, because I want the likes of Louis Giles, Bagan, Fish, Robertson, Darland. I want them all ready to play together next year, and I want the likes of Giles and Conte to play as much first team football ahead of the pre-season.
I can remember having this discussion with around Bullet Mind, and would he do it? And I don't think he did he?
No, he did. He right at the end, didn't he? But I mean, that was a weird one in itself, wasn't it? Because I think he was almost playing for his contract. Whereas I think, I got to be honest, mate, I think if Riza keeps us up, he'll probably get the job. Whether people agree with him or not.
I just think, you see the players, the way they talk about him now, and the way he portrays himself in the media and things as well, right? I know it's not the be all and end all, because anybody can, talk to a camera type of thing. But I just think the players are playing for the manager now. They've got that. I don't know. It's just that's how I look at it, looking from the outside in type of thing. Whereas perhaps under Bullet, I don't think enough of the players had enough respect for him. Perhaps, I don't know. Again, that's just my.
He lost them at some point.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely lost them. There were certain players who were still trying to hold it together. Your O'Dowders and your Ramseys and your Raws and people who were making a concerted effort to try and keep the train on the tracks, if you like. But ultimately, he did lose you could see that he lost the players. And I think, Rhys like I've said many times, mate, I think Rhys deserves a lot of credit in a lot of ways. I think in many ways he's been set up to fail. I think at least they've backed him to a certain degree in the transfer window. I think it'll be interesting what we do in the summer, because I know a couple of people, a couple of my mates and stuff, they thought it was a poor decision to announce the new contracts of what was it, O'Dowda, Alnwick and Callum Robinson. They thought it was a bad decision to announce that when they did. Now, I can see it from both sides. My main thing is that O'Dowda, and Robinson, I can see 100% giving them a contract. Me personally, I'm not 100% sold on Alnwick, but then I suppose you can't replace everyone. So maybe you need to put it in a sense of what you've got already to replace the players out of contract. already at the club, and then also how many positions you can afford to replace. So if they're looking at it and thinking, well, we're going to not sign X, Y, and Z of these players who are out of contract, the goalkeeper, maybe we need to sign him up because we haven't got the budget to go and get 2 other keepers. Or maybe, we quite like Matthew Turner, so we'll just, we'll stick with these 2 for a year or so, and then Matthew will be ready to challenge. Like, you just don't know. But like, I would just like to see us go in a slightly different direction from next year in terms of the age profile of the team. I would like to see us have a much younger, athletic, technically based team. And I think we've got the foundations for that already. And I know some people disagree with me on that. Like, I was hoping to do a little video.
I suppose it's having the right balance in it, making sure that there's, like I said, just having the right balance of youngsters and senior players in and around that team. And I think, I totally agree with you. And I think we probably we will get that under Riza as long as they back him. I think because obviously most of his background is working with academies and under 21s and 23s and things like that. So I think one of the last press conferences I seen, he said all the youngsters I was working with, however many years ago, are coming to that age now where they're ready to be progressing into first team football. So I can only see that as a positive thing, really, for us.
Yeah, I mean, the other side of it as well is, there might be players from that list which you think on paper, I want to keep that player as one of my experienced lads to lead the team of youngsters next year. Yeah. But if that person is on a lot of money, but when you're being realistic, they're probably not going to be in your starting 11. And they're probably going to be used sporadically off the bench. It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because then can you justify paying a boatload of money for someone who's really not going to play much? I do understand it from both sides. So I was hoping to get a video out on Joe Rolls this week. Not just because I wasn't just talking about Joe Rolls, by the way, then I was just talking generally. But I was hoping to get a video out on Joe Rolls kind of discussing it because I saw a few people not happy after the Leeds game, obviously, and a few of them are not happy with his performance. But my thing is with all these players is when you go to Leeds, you know what to expect. You know they're going to be quick in the final third. They got 3 quick strike forwards. They're very good in the central midfield, but they're very athletic and very technically good. So you have to set up to either nullify or to combat those things. And so you'd don't play with a high line, don't play with a winger at fullback, and probably don't play your older midfielders who maybe aren't as quick as they once were. Not that they were lightning quick before, but do you know what I mean? And I think...
Yeah, I think,
sometimes you can set players up to fail, I felt for him a little bit.
What I was just going to say, and kind of let Theo go a couple of days too early for me. I think just having his energy in and around that midfield, and like I said, Noel Rolls is a Cardiff City legend, and I just think it wasn't his type of game. Simple as that.
Yeah, and look, mate, when I do put that video out, some people will agree, some people will disagree. And as I say, with everything, it's not personal. It's like, and I think the Joe Rolls conversation is a very difficult conversation to have because he's a club legend, he's the club captain. I don't think anyone particularly wants him to go. Like, I don't really want to see him go. But then I find it difficult for a club who's under financial constraints. He's rumored to be on like 15 grand or whatever. I have no idea if that's the case, but let's say he's on the upper side of the wage bill. We need to bring our wage bill down substantially. And if he signs a new contract, is he going to play next year? Well, look, with the greatest of respect to him, I hope he's not, because I hope we're kind of at a level where he's not like up. You know what I mean? Like, he's not up to it. He's not I hope we're not at the level that we're at this year. And don't get me wrong, he was phenomenal against the Jacks. But he physically now can't produce those performances week in, week out. So it's a difficult conversation to have, mate. And it's not, he's not the only conversation to have. We mentioned Aaron Ramsey earlier.
Yeah.
It's another conversation to be had with these players. And we've got such a good crop of youngsters coming through. We've also signed a couple of really talented youngsters. And it's about making sure that they get the right progression through into the first team, but also having some experienced heads around them to talk them through it. I think, I think Gutas is important. I would give Gutas a year with potential, like an option for another year if he wants to stay, because I think he can be beneficial to Darland and Fish. And then you've got Dylan Lawler coming through, who's just unreal football, like an unreal defender. Dylan Lawler is, and you've got Pacquiao and you've got Giles, and you've got these young fullbacks, and you need someone. And maybe Rinamoto's the guy to help with the fullbacks. And Joel Bagan can obviously provide. Even though he's a 23, he's still quite experienced.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fascinating, mate, what the club does. I just hope, and this is not about any individual, I just hope we don't just sign them all back up. I think that would be borderline disastrous, because I think then you're not taking the club forward. This is I think I said this to you the other day, but I can't remember if I said it on a show or
I
not.
think it'll be Riza's time in the summer now to mould the squad the way that he wants it to be, to mould it, really. And I think the football we've played since he's taken over has been by far a lot better than what it was in the Bullet. We can't argue that. He's had one transfer window since he's taken over, which has been a positive one for me. So I think it'll be a big summer now. Like I said, he's got a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. And it's not just him. And that's one of the things I do like about him as well, is that when he talks and he has positive things, he doesn't take it all himself. He makes sure that his backroom staff are all acknowledged as well, which I think is a touch of class, really. He hasn't got to come out and say that. No. But he does, and he does it on a regular basis as well. And I think that's credit to him, in fairness.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Just very quickly on the contracts and stuff as well. There's two aspects to it as well. So say with Joe Rawls, for example, who is on decent money, is if you keep him, but then he doesn't play, when whoever's starting contract comes up, say Alex Robertson's got a 2-year contract, so say his contract's up the end of next year. I don't know if that's what he's got. I'm just saying hypothetically. And he can then turn around and say, well, hang on, they're on 20 grand a week and they barely play. I should be on 20 grand a week. And then you have someone else. And then suddenly, when you've brought your wage bill down, you're in a position where you almost have to put it back up to accommodate the players who are playing for you week in, week out, because you've kept experienced players who were earning a lot but aren't playing, if that makes sense. But,
I wouldn't be against them doing a similar type of thing that what you mentioned about doing with Ramsey, kind of like as a coaching thing and a pay-as-you-play type of thing, just to keep him in and around the players, to be fair.
Yeah, because I think he can be important to the culture, and he understands what it means to play for Cardiff City, and I think that's important. And that's what I'm saying. I don't want Joe Rawls to leave, but I think we need to come up with a creative way to keep him, if that makes sense. But I don't think it's very often that you have a unique situation where you've got 12 players out of contract whilst also having a crop of youngsters coming through the academy who are either ready to push for first team football, or it won't be very long till they push for first team football. I think that's a really unique opportunity that you don't often get, because usually if you have the group of academy players coming through, you either can't dislodge the first team players, so they end up going elsewhere, or if they do dislodge the first team players, you're then stuck trying to get rid of, like, you have to sell the players rather than them being out of contract. So, look, dare I say it, and don't really want to go over the discussion again, but perhaps if we had a football structure at the football club, they could be making a plan for all this now, whilst Omar Riza and his team focus on the things on the pitch. Yeah, just saying.
What before we start wrapping up, I think we're not far away from that. What's your thoughts on young Joel Colwell at Exeter then? Because I don't think he's been used very much, and when he has been used, he went on right back last weekend, I think.
So it's funny. The Cheltenham fan who I did a video with talking about Joel's season so far, he'd been messaging me saying, when are you going to do a video on Joel Colwell? Because they're fuming, and rightly so, I think. I believe that the best thing for Joel Colwell was to play week in, week out men's football in either League One or League Two. I don't believe that the jump up from League One to League Two is so massive that they needed to cut short his loan at Cheltenham and move him to Exeter. Exeter are really struggling in the league, and they're not going to risk young players whilst they are so desperate for points. Now, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that he came on at right back. I said this when he was playing for Cheltenham. He played as a 6, he played as an 8, he played as a right midfield, he played as a right wing back, he played as a number 10. Like, it's good for him to play in different positions. I just believe that it would have been better to keep him somewhere where he was playing week in, week out. He was also the first name on the team sheet. He was excelling, scoring goals, creating goals, playing well. He was happy. They were happy. There was no need to interfere or change that. I do get the thinking behind it. I just think that the thinking was flawed, and it didn't take a miracle worker to look at where Exeter were when they sent him on loan there, or when they made the decision to cut the Cheltenham loan. It didn't take a rocket scientist to see that Exeter were kind of struggling, and when push comes to shove, when managers are under pressure and their jobs are on the line, very rarely do they rely on lone youngsters, because lone youngsters are not there permanently, so they don't have that. They can be as good as they are, but they haven't got that passion for the club in a lot of cases, and also they're young players. So I think it was a mistake, mate, and I just hope that Joel Colwell's development isn't affected by it, because he was on course to be in the first team squads come pre-season. I don't think it will, but I don't think it was a good decision. Let's say that.
No, I agree with you, buddy. I agree with you.
Welcome me for not swearing again. Getting used to that now, isn't it? Let's have a look at some of these comments. Martin says, in hindsight, Reno might have been better in midfield last Saturday, but then I think, maybe I can see the logical, the thinking behind that, but I think NG would have had similar problems that Reno had. It's one of them, isn't it? Paul says, here you are. This is one for you, Matt. If you have the choice with Ramsey to coach or roles for the academy, which one would you take? I know the answer to mine straight away.
For the youngsters in and around the club, I would go for Joe Rolls, just because he's been there for so long and he's committed 100% to his career to Cardiff City. Obviously, again, you can't knock Rambo for what you've gone on to achieve outside of Cardiff City, but for what you're trying to create and what you're trying to embed into the youngsters coming through the club, I would pick Joe Rolls.
So, I would like both. But if you were gun to the head, got to pick one, I would go with Ramsey, because I think Aaron Ramsey's future manager of Cardiff City. Everybody who I speak to from the FAW and Cardiff City said he's so switched on like tactically and coaching wise. Like he is mentally already ready for that kind of.
And I think
role.
they've both been doing bits with Riza when they've been injured, haven't they?
Yeah, so and that's what I mean. I would like to keep both, but if you put me on the spot, I would go with Ramsey because I think Ramsey is more likely to kind of end up being the Cardiff manager at some point anyway. So you may as well keep him there and
I think it's a win-win on both, really. Like I said, you need them both in the club, really. I think because they're both legends, isn't it?
Yeah, John says we need to make a decision on Riza fairly early, certainly by April, in order to let him work on moulding the squad for next season. John, I agree with you, mate, but I can tell you something. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if on the last day of the season we still don't know if Omar Rhys is going to be here next year. Simply because I also believe that the board doesn't know. Like, it's not, a couple of weeks ago, they were talking to other managers because they thought they might have to sack him after that ropey Christmas spell. They were like, oh, one or two more losses and we're going to have to move on. So I think the one good thing for Omar Riza is he has the backing of the man who counts. And that's Vincent Tan. Vincent Tan apparently really, really likes him. So make of that with what you will. Martin says, I think Riza has been given a target of finishing position. If he achieves that, he's all good for next season. To be honest with you, mate, I think his target is just stay up. He took over. We had 1 point and 1 goal. If he keeps us up, I think he's done a good job. Although 100%. I still stand by the fact that this squad is good enough to be a mid-table championship squad with the right manager. Now, I'm not saying that that's down to Omar Riza, but I'm saying that if we'd had the right manager from the start of the season, this squad is more than good enough to be sort of 10th. More than good enough, in my opinion. Do you agree with that, Matt, or not?
Yeah, 100% agree with you, mate. But the frustrating thing for me was that obviously Riza was there from the start of the season. And I think it just goes to show how frosty perhaps his relationship was even with Bullet, because I think it was Bullet's way or no way at all type of thing. So, we go back and talk about how Riza talks about how all the backroom staff have an input and yes, he has the final say. But it's nice to see him come out and say that they all chip in and work together. We never had any of that under Bullet. And yeah, it was his way or the highway type of thing. And again, that's my personal opinion. I might be barking up the wrong tree, but that's how I looked at it.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting, mate, because I'm just not sure what Rhys's remit would be. Like hypothetical for you, mate, right? To finish off. Let's say Rhys we stay up, only just, but comfortable, not like goal difference on
the last day of the season job, though.
Yeah, just like we're down there, and then with a few games to go, we're like, right, we're 18th, 19th, whatever. So we're safe. Omar Riza gets a 3-year contract. Where do you think we finish next year? Bearing in mind that I think
it's hard.
He's allowed 2 decent signings, and you can use anyone else that's at the club or at the academy.
I think it's hard to know and answer that question, mate, if I'm honest. I'm going to sit on the fence because obviously you don't know out of the 12 or 13 who are going, who's going to stay, who he's going to bring in. So I just, we got to just keep building now towards the end of the season. I know obviously we had a bit of a blip last week against Leeds, but, we need to be picking up points now against the teams who are down there and around us. We're nowhere near the same level as Leeds. Leeds were a different class. They could have been double figures. And if that had happened, you couldn't have argued because they were by far stronger than us. But, so to answer your question, but I can't. I don't know.
My Black Panthers sat on my shoulder like a parrot. It's one of them, mate, isn't it? Like, it's this difficult. I see a lot of things that I like in Omar Rhys's management, but I also see a lot of. I don't want to say, when I say naivety, I don't mean it in like a derogatory way. I just mean like he's learning on the job, so he's still making mistakes, and I see a lot of that tactically. I thought he made some real basic tactical errors in the setup versus Leeds on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like, if me as a YouTuber or whatever you want to say, a podcast host or whatever, can kind of see things like Leeds are going to get in behind, they got a lot of pace, so let's not play a high line on the halfway line. You'd like to think a professional football club can see that. But we've had that discussion before, mate, where we've said, like, we've talked about stuff in previews and said, we cannot allow this player space, or we can't allow this player to do this. And then on Sunday night or Monday night, we're talking about, oh, yeah, they did exactly that. And it's like, sometimes you give credit to players just being good, but also it's about being set up. And I agree with what Martin said there. Professionals should never lose 7-0. It's unforgivable. When it got to 3-4, I know, and I said this yesterday, football fans don't want to hear it, right? They want to dream of coming back from 3-0 down or 4-0 down. But when you go 3-0 down at Ellen Road, you shut up shop and you make sure that it doesn't get any worse. What you don't do is continue to play a high line and continue to try and play out from the back and these things, because it is unforgivable.
Yeah, agreed.
I've said, I mean, Paul abandoned Otto bangs this and Arthur Bushby's just said there about Craig Bellamy. Cardiff missed the boat with Craig Bellamy. They had him within the club. Stuff happened, didn't back him. And there you go. He's ended up, and he's good for Wales, but
that's it. Obviously, we was fortunate, or you was fortunate to have the live event literally a week after he'd been announced as Welsh manager, and I think obviously we talked about it after the night about how passionate he talked and things, and people in the crowd were saying, bloody hell, I'd run through a brick wall for him. So. I'm not really surprised he's done as well as he have, really. No, obviously, because I went to that live event and I listened to him talking, and I thought if he's talking to the players, then it was incredible. And we can go on and talk about the live events and what we got coming up the other night, but it hasn't surprised me at all how successful he's been really.
Yeah, 100%, mate. On live events, why don't you talk us through the scrolly bit at the bottom?
Scrolly bit at the bottom then. So our next live event, first live event for 2025 is in April. Mr. Glenn Loovens, former Cardiff City central defender, is coming over for a night with us. 25th of April at Splott Cons in Cardiff. Tickets are now on sale. I'm not sure how many of the meet and greet ones are left. Si, you'll have to let them know on that. Not many, by the way you're shaking your head. I'm guessing there's not many general tickets left either. So if you do fancy it, it's a great night. We've done numerous ones now, and they're all very successful. It's a great venue at Splott Cons. Jordan and Carly make sure that the venue is always spot on. So it's a really good night, and like I said, you can get a ticket for a tenner. It's an absolute bargain, and it's a really really good night.
100% it is. Yeah, we've done Darren Pearce, Michael Chopra, Andy Campbell,
Willie Boland,
Joe Ledley, Craig Bellamy. I feel like I'm missing one, but I think that's all of them. The feedback was 100% good. Great, actually. And I'm happy to say that I'm going to put the Willie Boland one out on the weekend as well. Remind people just how good these events are to attend, especially if you're a Cardiff City fan. And also, bargain prices. And the drinks are cheap as well at Splott Cons, which makes it extra good if you like that sort of thing. Also, just on a side note, if you'd like to become a member, please do. We had a retro watch along earlier on this evening, 6:30, with Mr. Andy Campbell. I bet you can never guess the game we watched, but it was good. It was really interesting listening to Andy kind of talk about the squad and what it was like that season, the pressure that they were under because they'd obviously failed at the final hurdle the season before, financial pressure, the pressure of players being sold off if they didn't win the game. The game was a bit scrappy, a bit thing. But yeah, if you remember, that's up there. Obviously, we got the South Wales Derby one with Paul Abandonado from a week or two ago is on there as well. There's lots of members content going to be going up. The Willie Boland and Joe Ledley event video will be going up for members over the next probably week or so. Both of them, and then they'll go. Those will.
What I still think is mad, and he mentioned it in the video this afternoon or this evening, is the fact that he didn't touch the ball again after he scored, and it was like 6 minutes left in the game. I think that's bonkers.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad. You could see though, like when he was talking, he was saying about like the adrenaline dump, and that is like he just looks absolutely exhausted from the minute he scores. Just looks mentally shot, but. Like on Willie Boland, mate, that, at the live event, like he was so honest and like he went, him and Leo Fortune West absolutely despise each other. And you'd never have known by the way they played football, but they absolutely hated each other. And so that's like an interesting thing with the Willie Boland one. And like I say, then the Joe Ledley one will be out fairly soon as well. The Joe Ledley one I've got to edit a little bit because Joe did some singing, and I got to take the music out of it because otherwise he'll get demonetized. But such is life. It's a hard life. Please do subscribe, like, share the videos and stuff like that. I'll try and get some clips
members
up of
thing there.
they got the members QR code there. You have a member show every Monday. We have the retro watch-alongs sporadically, depending on the the availability of guests, and we have the rumor mill has been going through the January window on a Tuesday morning, and undecided what to do with that. Do we just turn it into a bit of a general news one until the window reopens in the summer, or would you like to replace it with something else? I'll put it to you guys. You can let me know, and that's what we'll do. Within reason, obviously.
Put your answers in the comments after the live is finished, I reckon.
Exactly that. And I would like the other thing I'd like you to put in the comments after we finish this video is what would your starting 11 be for the Stoke City FA Cup game? Let me know in the comments, and we'll see who gets it right. Maybe if someone gets it spot on, we'll give away like a ticket or something for the event or something. I don't know. We'll think of something.
I'm going for a 2-1 win Saturday, mate.
What would your team be though?
I'll put it in the comments after.
It's the right answer. It's the right answer. In a bit.